Yo, it's Mat4yo here with another Chisel This instructional episode. Last episode was about centralizing your idea. If you haven't seen that, click right here to check it out. But today's episode is about exploiting all ideas and the concept of the linking tree. It's the previous episode on a load of steroids. And don't let the background appearance or the shirt deceive you because, trust me, this all does link together. Like all instructional episodes will, this video does have a song at the end of it, so you can click here to skip to that or any other part of the video that would interest you the most if you think you have your head wrapped around everything else. Which I can probably assure you you won't, because I kind of invented this, so I don't think you've heard it anywhere else. We're about to get philosophical, so just make sure you're in a position to give this video your undivided attention if you really want to get into it and harness an understanding of what I'm about to say. Since last episode was about idea concentration and we now know what our idea is, we're going to find a way to exploit all derivations of it. Now, you may think at this point in your writing career that you do exploit your ideas to the fullest, and hey, maybe you do. However, there is a difference between exploiting and just using, and I want to make sure that you know that difference before you go into any projects with a falsified confidence. With this video, you'll be able to determine where you fall on that spectrum and adjust yourself based on your personal preference of writing level. Now, before we get too philosophical, let's start with the basics of what the linking tree is. I want you to take this time to pick an idea. It can be the idea from last episode, or it can be a new idea if you didn't like that one. Just grab a piece of paper and write that idea at the top. And at the end of this episode, I want you to make a linking tree out of it. I've used this little red book that I purchased a year and a half ago in anticipation of using it to write down raps in, and I finally made use of it today. I'm going to be using this to describe the linking trees that I have created for this episode. Now, what is a linking tree? A linking tree is a metaphorical plant composed of every possible connection from anything to anything ever. Simple, right? Well, the point that I'm trying to get at is that the tree exists universally in time and space. It's there. The links you make between point A and point B, or maybe even point C, D, E, all the way to Z, have existed since the earliest point in time in which all points that you are linking have existed. Ever since the first point in time where all of your links have existed, they have always universally been floating in space, up for grabs by anyone to take and utilize. Am I confusing you? Look, I want you to think about this, okay? Let me show you this line from a rap battle that I was in, and I'm gonna explain how this ties into the whole linking tree idea.
And your rising action climaxed in the previews when Pee-wee was coming in theaters near you.
If you make a link between the Pee Wee Herman movie masturbating incident and the story elements of a story in a movie, rising action, climax, falling action, etc., it has been possible since the very second that Pee Wee Herman's actor Paul Reubens was handcuffed that someone somewhere could have made that connection. It existed. It's not like I thought of it and it was only possible at that second that I thought of it. It has existed for years that somebody could have made that joke, and hey, maybe somebody did, but not in the way that I used it. And in that instant, as soon as that mugshot was taken, the possibility of paralleling those two ideas has existed somewhere. Are you getting it now? While you do come up with the ideas to link certain things together, the fabrication of their existence in separate places has existed, and it just took you drawing the connection to make the connection. Now, even though it existed, no one really knew that it existed until I made the reference in that rap battle between Pee Wee Herman and Hugh Hefner. But why me? Why was I, of all the millions of people who have existed since that incident happened, why was I the person who was able to find that connection floating around in outer space? It was there the whole time. Anyone could have done that, but why me? It's the difference between using and exploiting. And the difference between using that incident as a joke and exploiting that incident as a link is the linking tree. I looked beyond the simple reference of just saying that it happened, and decided to make my own linking tree under the category of movies, just for the possibility of something else existing there that could have been said. Instead of just saying, I'm gonna lock you up like you got locked up at the movie theater. And instead of saying something stupid, instead of just saying in an ordinary rap song that I'm coming to theaters near you like Pee Wee Herman, while that is a whole double entendre in itself, how do we even begin to find the information that can make that double entendre a triple, quadruple, quintuplet, octomom reference? Let's make a linking tree together under the category of movies. Now, the linking tree is basically one idea acting as the stem of the tree, and then all derivations or subtopics of that idea acting as the branches that stem away from it. So for the first branch of movies, the linking tree, we have cinema. From cinema, just the basic words. Go as basic as possible for the foundational elements of what the cinema is. And by narrowing down so many simple terms, you find so many different rhymes to use, so many different possibilities of wordplay, alliteration even. You'll find that by doing this, we make another joke. Cinema diverts to auditoriums, screen, seats, spectating, concessions as in snacks, theater, previews. Hold on to that one. What's another one? Genres. There's tons of genres of movies. You have comedy, horror, drama, action, sports, romance. I don't think we're getting anywhere with that one, but we'll leave it there. And the third branch that we're gonna make for now is story. And in a story of a movie, you have characters, plots, themes, structure of a movie. Didn't we learn somewhere back in preschool that there was a certain amount of steps that created a story, a coherent story? Does that sound familiar? Thank your teachers. So those are all derivations that we got from the word movie, and we still have the connection to a movie, to a story, but we're far away from it enough that we have options. We know that we're trying to make a joke about Pee Wee Herman's actor Paul Reubens masturbating in a public theater. So we're looking for a joke about movies and masturbation at the same time. Well, rising action, climax, and falling action can all be metaphors for a penis. And I think you get where this is going. Now, phrasing it is something different, and that's next episode, but how do you want to phrase that and maybe add even another joke? Instead of the amount of syllables that would need to be filled after the word "and," you can say that his rising action climaxed in the previews, making a joke about coming too soon, and then say coming in theaters near you. See, it makes sense because that's what they say in the previews, and you just exploited your idea. So, like this tree for movies, there's a tree for anything. And when you utilize these trees to do the job that they exist to do, which is give you all the information possible, they produce seeds that you can plant elsewhere to expand your wealth of knowledge. You can discover more trees and more branches and more connections that you never knew existed. People ask me how you expand your vocabulary or how you expand your understanding of culture or life occurrences. How do you get to a point where you know enough about certain things where you can just throw a rope over there, be able to know that it's over there, and then bring it in and look more stuff up about it and find more things about it? And the answer is by looking for the connections between different things. If you look at this movie incident and say, there has to be more to this, there has to be something else that I can say about this, just by saying that, you have expanded yourself to learning about this man named Freytag, who I didn't even know it was him who came up with this idea of the rising action, climax, falling action until today. So now I know about him, and I can look him up and learn more things about him. And now I know that Aristotle had the idea that a story has a beginning, a middle, and the end, and that's a whole metaphor to use in another song that's not even a rap battle. And that way, you both purposefully and accidentally expand your vocabulary and your knowledge, just to be able to know what to look up or to know what details to look for in other scenarios. Maybe you were listening to someone's conversation, or somebody was talking to you, or a professor was lecturing to you, and you heard them say a word that you've never heard of before. You know what I do when that happens? I whip out my phone and I write out my notes, and then I look it up when I go home and I see, oh, this means that, and that sounds like this word, and that rhymes with this word, and that's a cool thing to reference. By writing it down, you've just planted yourself this tree to utilize it in any scenario where it may fit. For example, I once heard somebody say the word decoupage, and I thought it was like some kind of German word, and I look it up, and it's a noun for the art or craft of decorating objects with paper cutouts. And just that word, and just me hearing that somewhere, I was able to use that, not only implement it with the theme and message of my song that I'm going to play for you later, but also fit in with the rhyme scheme. Like, sometimes it just works out by knowing more words. And the objective is not even with words, you can take it further with just whole concepts of things in general, is to plant so many trees that you have the biggest garden in the industry. That's what exploiting is. Using is just throwing a seed on the dirt and expecting it to grow into a tree without paying any attention to it or giving it any care. That's what you do when you just insert a reference just for the sake of saying it. If there's something that you know you want to reference or compare yourself to, or just acknowledge that you know it exists, and then you do it just for the sake of saying that you did it, and it doesn't really make sense or tie back into any other themes that you have just there, that is using. Exploiting is when you manipulate language and pop culture and rhetoric and knowledge and heritage all to the best of your ability, and the key to exploiting is that you don't stop. Take every sub-point that you can find for the idea that you picked earlier. Write down everything you know about it. Then once you write down everything that you know more, look up more about it. Anything that you think is of value to your main idea, write it down. You don't have to use it, but write it down anyway so that you have it. It's not like a test where you can get something wrong for having too big of a word bank, but for me at least, the bigger word bank that you have, the more opportunity there is to say the message that you want to say while using words that still pertain to the idea that you're trying to convey. Now here's the secret to exploiting all of your ideas, and if there's anything that you take away from this video, I want it to be this. And this is how you make your linking tree as big as possible. For every subpoint, keep asking yourself the questions: who, what, when, where, why, and how. And do not stop asking those questions to yourself until the only answer that you can possibly come up with is because I said so. Now you may say that it's not good to have a big tree of ideas, you want to focus on one idea. No, look, what I'm saying is that you pick that one idea and you find so many branches attached to it that the tree just looks like there's so many big ideas, when in reality, all of these other words, when used in context of the main idea, make sense to the listener. Hey, when he says theaters near you, I now understood why he said previews. He could have said anything. And if it helps, cross off the ones that don't fit, narrow it down to only the best of the best derivations of your main idea. Now what I'm going to do is make a tree with you to one of the songs that will appear on my album coming in early 2016. This song is called Cool and Warm. Simply, it mocks people's attitudes towards hot and cold temperatures. People are so eager for both kinds of seasons to roll around, but then when it gets there, they behave in a manner that is contrary to what the season offers. For example, in the summer, people wear as little clothes as possible to keep cool. Then in the winter, when it is cooler, people wear as many clothes as possible to keep warm. And then the cycle continues endlessly. If we long for it to be hot during the summer, why do we make so many efforts to stay cool? And if we love when it gets cold in the winter, why do we make efforts to stay warm? Does this sound like an issue? And if so, why not just make every season a balance of cool and warm, instead of hot and cold, two extremes? So that Mother Nature doesn't have to feel bad every time she changes the weather according to how people dress, and then people just change the way they dress in accordance to the weather. She tries to please us with a new season 4 times a year, and people go against the grain of it. And another theme would be, if we had that balance, if there was no option of hot and cold as extremes, would it be a good thing? Maybe not, and that's the main idea. Now we're gonna make this tree together right now. The first thing you wanna do is define hot and cold. Get every single ounce of beef you can onto this slab of an English word and write it down. So, The first clear definition of it is hot is when the temperature is hot and cold is when the temperature is cold. Okay, so our main idea between these two is weather and Mother Nature. Underneath our hot tree, we have sweat, tropical, efforts to cool off, suffocation, sunny, summer break, keep it cool. And then we have a paralleling branch for every branch of the hot tree on the cold tree. Stress. You know, is it gonna snow too much? Are our plans gonna get canceled? Can I not drive? I have obligations to be at. I have a whole song about it that I made 2 years ago. Efforts to warm up. It freezes. It snows a lot in the winter, and you want to get cozy and warm whenever winter rolls around. But then there's a whole other definition of hot and cold that you can go for, and that's the difference between attitudes. And you have hot being defined as passionate, hot-blooded, eager, excited, intense and debating, of interest, erotic, skillful, difficult to combat, or hospitable. And then you have cold, which is cold-blooded, lacking affection, objectively unemotional, depressing, disinterested, sexually unresponsive, unawareness, no longer fresh and easy to follow if we're talking about animals, and inhospitable. And you can find all of these if you just type in definition of hot or definition of cold on Google. All of these will come right up. The next thing we want to do is find factors related to the words hot and cold to use as a word bank for references. And remember, nothing has to rhyme yet. However, if you see some words or possibilities that sound like they could be cool rhyming words, and maybe it connects and you get a rhyming word right off the top, you write it down. Okay, so factors related to the words hot and cold. Weather, temperature, atmosphere, Earth, Mother Nature, and seasons. You can see that I made note of temperature rhyming with November and December, and atmosphere rhyming with half the sphere, relating to the Earth being a sphere. So that's something that we're definitely going to tie in the lyrics. Next, we want to look at all the words that we just wrote down and find metaphors that come to the top of our head. So, for example, hot and cold, as we saw in the second definition of it, are opposing beliefs, okay? And cool and warm being the idea of the song and why it couldn't just be balanced in the middle like that would act as a solution that looks good on paper but could destroy freedom. And that's where it's gonna get deep. Should Mother Nature give people what they want but limit what she's giving? Or should Mother Nature let people take what they want and then not let that be limited? Translated into the terms of weather, should Mother Nature make temperature only be cool and warm with people not having the opportunity to be hot and cold, or should she make it a big field where people can do what they want, and depending on how many clothes you wear or what kind of environment you put yourself in, you can be cool and warm depending on what your preference is? What kinds of freedoms should we let Mother Nature give us? And then you have the idea of opposites, and then the first thing that comes in my head when I hear that is that opposites attract. Definitely not in this case, so we're gonna make a parody of that phrase and say that opposites attract, but you know, not here. Now we're gonna take these metaphors even further. Seasons are represented by the change in weather experienced in that part of the globe. This is where we're gonna ask our important questions. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. This is gonna be a speed round, don't fail. What makes seasons change? Well, the Earth's axis revolves further away from the sun during certain solstices. Okay, why are seasons different? Well, it's simple. You know, some are hot, some are cold, some are cool, some are warm. Okay, how or in what ways do seasons change? Let's pair them up. Spring and summer's shrubbery and warmth/heat are wilted and killed by autumn and winter's cold. And as the cycle continues, autumn and winter's leaves and snow and its coolness/coldness are completely abolished by the turn of spring and summer. Where doesn't apply really, but who changes them? Mother Nature changes the seasons. Of course, Mother Nature is imaginary figment, but that is to our advantage because it's imagery, and we're going to use that to further exploit all of our ideas. Okay, when do they change? Certain months of the year. Okay, we have months. We saw earlier that December and November rhyme with temperature. Basically, we want to start this song by telling people what it's going to be about. Everything I explained to you earlier, we want to explain that in the lyrics, but we don't want to say, this song is going to be about how people are hot and cold and so are seasons and temperatures. No, that's not what we're gonna do. You're gonna see what we do. We're gonna make the whole thing lyrical and metaphorical. Now, you could ask each of these individual questions, the same important questions again, but we're gonna stop there for now. We'll let you do that. Your main ideas may change at this point. Okay, you might add more or you might take away some. Because with this song, I most definitely took away the happy ending of it and made it much more dramatic and serious towards the end of it about what I'm about to read to you. So now you want to write your main ideas, okay? Your main ideas in imaging are seasons changing, contrast in temperature, contrast in lifestyles of different seasons, geography of the earth, weather's inconsistency, and Mother Nature as either a failing or successful leader. Those are some of the things that we're going to lyrically say in the song. And we're going to add more as we progress through the song and find more ideas with the different rhymes that come up. Again, that's next episode, but our main themes, the concrete main themes that we have, are a contrast of beliefs, or people's inconsistency consistent with the weather's inconsistency. Whoa. Efforts to prohibit people's beliefs. The socialization of beliefs. Not being allowed to identify with an extreme like hot and cold are. Pressure to succumb to the norm. The Earth's migration towards the norm and global warming scares. Human nature's migration towards the norm and people being prosecuted for being different. That could be either negatively different or positively different. Why it would hurt you if cool and warm became the only options. And false promises. As you can see, this got philosophical pretty quick, and that's what's going to happen if you don't stop asking yourself these important questions when you're coming up with ideas for a song, or a rap, or a paper. There's no end to what you can aspire to write with an idea. As you see, all we started with were 2 words, hot and cold. And we've gotten all the way from there to human nature deteriorating and prosecuting people for being different and believing in things that are taboo, or maybe aren't taboo but are becoming taboo because of pop culture. Or would you rather just rap about hot and cold like Katy Perry? So now that we have all of our main ideas, we're going to implement rhyming. That will be another video, but for now, check out some of the parts of this song that I came up with. I'm not going to spoil it all because I do want you to experience this whole song in its entirety and the direction that it takes. But I'm going to show you some important parts that utilize what we just learned. Around November and December, the temperature differs in coordination with the shift of weather's force, as the forecast says of storms coming that will go against the norm, therefore we try to make it warm. It's a part of human nature, but rest assured weather makes the best of us stressed, I'm sure. But when it's cold, people want to be warm, so to ensure we endure, find a cure for the temperature. Now, Mother Nature's leaves are in a bunch, so she tries to make it warmer, but it takes a couple months. In the summer, people want it sunny when they're leaving school, but they're spending every second of that season trying to keep it cool. We need some rules in the atmosphere. We go around the full cycle pleasing half the sphere. We know hot and cold, but they are doomed for war. What would happen if we had cool and warm? That's the very beginning of the song. Now in the last verse, you can see how that changes into this. You can basically theorize how and what kind of imagery I use to get from there to this point. So listen to this. Hot and cold are outliers of a certain nature. To rid us of opinions, cool and warm are the perpetrators. They're the perfect traitors, acting like they'll terminate the world of hurtful haters, dirt and craters, and all of the earth's dictators. So where am I going with that? We've implemented all of our ideas from the linking tree, and we've come up with something that rhymes, something that's powerful, something that makes sense when looked at in retrospect and may make some sense on the surface. And we've paralleled a lot of the words that we listed earlier into this song using rhyming and similes and metaphors and analogies. That's the linking tree. What? You still don't understand the linking tree? What do you think, Link? Should we give him another song? Yes. Well, I haven't actually made this song yet, but now is the past, and you're watching this in the present, so by the time I have edited this, I will have had made the song to a point where I can just play it right now. That was redundant. Hey everyone, you're in the booth with Mat4yo right now, about to record the Linking Tree song. While earlier in the episode you heard me saying a song about cool and warm, really that's utilizing the methods of the linking tree, but this song is utilizing the methods of the linking tree in a way that teaches you how to use the linking tree. This song is very instructional, and you'll find by counting the amount of times I use the word you that I'm definitely marketing this song as if I was a teacher and you were listening to me trying to learn how to do what I'm teaching you how to do. To stitch the pieces of a masterpiece together, you gotta believe in the linking tree. You sit beneath it and you wish the pieces hit you without thinking too vigorously. Now since you're new to new ideas, ask Isaac Newton how it feels, cause he sat under an average street and actually discovered gravity. But it's just one word, tree.
What else can you say?
Please, if you stop truncating your literature, you can derivate from limits of the simple terms.
What?
Now I figured you would have a list of words that's similar.
Yeah.
Great. Now how do you get this to work? Well, if the first thing you do is list them all, the next thing you do is link them all.
Wow.
You gotta cut down the tree till it's disembarked and turn that paste to paper like a decoupage and process all the wood into Lincoln logs. But watch out, you might wind up getting Lincoln balls when he returns to the forest and the Deku gone and transforms to a semi-human demigod, and that sprouts an important story epilogue about time as a chain with the links unlocked. And then it gives you a shock for not taking advantage. You leave the tree hanging with 1,000 little branches. But if you accept when the giving tree offers help, you'll find that songs write themselves. I'm saying that this tree absorbs light from an all-knowing sun. From the dirt it grows so tall up above any other one. While you're on the curbside stooped, it looks at ideas from a bird's eye view. It's in your roots to give in to society, follow what's popular or sit back quietly. And you can try and stymie me in my imagination, but in time you'll see this tiny tree is high skyscraping. The seeds you sow will plant their own roots, and you'll begin believing even you're a tree too. When it falls back on you what you will and won't do. When I found I grew to uproot. See what happens when you put two words together. Never mind. You know, trees like look at the book. So in the first episode we learned what our ideas are. Now we know where further ideas come from. How do we implement them into artful lyrics? How do we pick rhymes that make sense to the subject matter? How do we stay on topic but still be creative in vocabulary usage and rhyming? Well, that's all for you today. Find out in the next instructional episode of Chisel This. Oh, I forgot to mention, I'll be making a video about this in the future, but right now for my very special fans and the ones who care the most, you can get a special discount on the very first Chisel This gear. Check out the website. The link is in the description and is on the screen. You can check it out from now until probably sometime tomorrow. Shirts will only be $14, but after that time they will be $20, so get your hands on the very first Chisel This attire. And, you know, help me out because I kind of spent $100 getting my own. Get Mateo's money back. I shouldn't have had to pay that much money for my own gear when I'm not gonna make that much money back. Seriously though, I really appreciate it, and I will thank each of you individually as long as you tell me that you bought it. Thank you.